Pause your recording first.
Yeah, don't record it.
Where is? Let's get out of here first. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have the roll call ready?
Trustee Kellis. Secretary Sass.
Here.
Treasurer Hammond.
Yep.
Trustee Saylor.
Here.
Also present, Chief Evans, Deputy Chief Ermer, and Attorney Flaherty.
Do we want to?
What'd you say?
Who are you people?
Brad Porter of Louder Rock Demon.
Morgan Staniszewski, you're not gonna be able to spell that. Awesome.
Hi, Dave. All right. We lose sound.
No, you're there.
All right. I need a motion to approve the minutes. Do we want to approve the minutes one at a time or as a group?
I make a motion, we approve the public hearing minutes of 12:21, the regular meeting minutes of 12:21, and the executive session minutes of 12:21.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We have some public comment.
Just a quick reminder to everybody that on Monday, the 24th, there's an intergovernmental strategic planning meeting over at the Winfield School District 34 in the Commons area. Hope to have some representatives from every government body and of course from the fire department, fire distribution center.
That started at 6:30.
7.
What day is that?
Monday, the 24th, and it's open to the public, so we usually have a couple representatives at different tables. Public can make comments during the meetings also. So,
That's it. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Is there any public comment from the folks that have zoomed in? Please raise your hand if you do. We'll give you another chance at the end of the meeting, just in case you have some questions. Okay. We'll hear about our reports. Treasurer.
Treasury report is included in the packet. One quick note, let's see, the checking account shows a negative balance of $498,000. It's just a timing issue on when the check came out and when the auto transfer in for that ambulance was done. So, or sorry, for the engine. So everything is all cleared now and is positive. It was just when the report was run in comparison to when.
We didn't write a rubber check to that.
You know, it was tempting, but so far at least we're in good shape. But just wanted to make sure that was addressed. Hey, see, there you go. It's as though I had some assistance.
Yes, I know, I make a motion, we accept the treasury report as second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion moved. Chief, what do you have to say?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to start, as I do every month, the Alliance training, the West Suburban Fire Rescue Alliance. We usually have 2 training sessions a month. One is multi-company, so a bunch of all of the 6 member agencies get companies together for practical evolutionary training. And then one is special operations training, usually water rescue, hazardous materials, or technical rescue, high angle, below grade, trench, structural collapse. All Alliance training has been canceled until March 1st because of COVID-related issues. So that's all I can report on that. Unless something changes, but it's unlikely. So we won't be resuming until March. In terms of recent incidents of note, we had a recent call on December 23rd, SWAT medic call out, Deputy Chief Armor, and one of our members, Seth Lamb, responded to Oakwood Mall. For that call, which everyone's on the news. On January 5th, we had for those of you that have gotten a lot of questions about it, there was a fatality on South Winfield Road. And I'm not going to get into any details out of respect, but it was closed for some period of time, and our crews were really hard and really well on that very difficult scene. And I also want to send special thanks to the Wheaton Fire Department, specifically Assistant Chiefs Bassios and McKay and Engine 38, and also West Chicago Squad 7. In that case, actually, Wheaton heard the traffic, got a direct report while they were over near the station behind Target, and automatically dispatched himself, again, going back to the scope of the relationship between the Alliance communities and having that type of relationship. And it was a huge benefit. They just automatically went, and it made operations go really well. And that's that close relationship that all of our member agencies have, and compliments and thanks to them. On January 9th, we had a reported kitchen fire on Silverleaf Boulevard on the east part of our district. And the interesting thing about that is we were 4 or 5 concurrent calls at the moment, and actually that was handled entirely by Carroll Stream, Wheaton, and West Chicago. And special thanks again to Assistant Chief, Battalion Chief over in Wheaton, Mike Franzone, who took command and mitigated the incident with their companies, because we were all committed on other calls in our district. On January 14th, Black Shift, we had a structure fire on Grand Avenue. We were assisted by Carroll Stream, West Chicago, and Wheaton. On the 15th, me and the Tender 31 responded to West Chicago and St. Andrews Court for a structure fire. And on the 17th, Engine 31 and Deputy 31 responded to Woodlawn and Wheaton for a structure fire. So again, just the incidents of note, but it was busy with respect to fire duty and working incidents last month. Service anniversaries, Gerardo Salazar started with us as a part-time member and was hired full-time several years ago. He celebrated his 9th year total service with the district on January 7th. Tiffany Clausen, one of our part-time members, celebrated her 18th anniversary on January 15th. Other issues of note, Tender 31 update. Elkhart Brass we've been through this on numerous occasions in the recent past. There have been considerable amount of issues with the dump valves, considering it's a water tender primarily. That's a big deal. The tender is a vehicle that brings water with it to scenes where we don't have a water supply. So we bring our water with us. Part of the concept is we put these huge swimming pool like things on the ground. These tenders dump water into those. The engine sucks the water out, puts it on fire. The tender then drives, goes, finds the water supply, usually a fire hydrant, refills, and it just goes in a loop. Those dump valves are imperative because that's how they get those, 2,500 gallons of water on that vehicle, and you can dump it in a minute, just over a minute. Because speed is of the essence in these types of things. And we've had some issues with the dump valves working properly. Elkhart Brass has been kind in that they're continuing to work with us to try and get some issues with those valves taken care of. They're scheduled to come out. Unfortunately, there's been a delay due to COVID-related issues with their company. So getting the technicians out to work on it is still a work in progress. In terms of grants, the Alliance submitted for a grant jointly, which has been submitted for a mobile ventilation unit. There's no word yet from the Office of State Fire Marshal on the grant we submitted for air cascade system. And just the other day, the hard work of Deputy Chief Armor, Robin, and I managed to get a safer grant in the process of being submitted for this upcoming FEMA grant period, which obviously we won't hear anything about that for some time to come. In terms of the command vehicle we discussed last month, we're working with some local dealerships, getting some pricing information to bring forth a proposal for the board's consideration next month at or potentially below state bid price. We have a new member in the hiring process who unfortunately was also a COVID-related issue, which caused a delay, but that potential new member is continuing on, and I think they're scheduled for their polygraph 25th. The survey, I was in communication, thank you very much, Trustee Hannon, for that. I was in communication with him. We're settling up the ends of it, and then I'm going to be contacting those respondents that should be contacted in the next day or two to reach out to them now that we're closing that period.
Yeah, and just one quick note, since the last meeting, there was only 5 additional responses. Not much difference from anything we had already heard previously, just worded differently, but the same general ideas. You know, lower number might help, you know, finances are important, having functioning equipment is important, things of that nature, and no additional requests for direct contact from the chief. So the list that he has from the previous is still the list.
And then Deputy Chief Irmer will have some updates on the ESO solutions and the Flow MSP implementation. We were talking about that computer software programs to help us better get our occupancy situation settled and our fire reporting software settled. Lexipol update, he's been hard at work on that, getting some of those policies, which we're gearing up. We have a bunch that are going before the executive board of the union, and we've included them in elements of this, and then for a proofread on some of those policies, we'll be having policies to start presenting to the board shortly for your consideration and potential approval. And also the RFPs on the roof. So those are 2 things. If you could, sorry.
Want me to go take care of it?
Yeah.
Copy.
I'll be right back. So, well, to cut to the chase on that, there's we've had several meetings, as Robin has been included as well, ESO Solutions with respect to the scheduling component of their software package. And it's going to be a huge benefit to us, really big time saver and person power saver. So this is all good stuff. We're really modernizing our operation. And the roof update, we actually just had a roofer here today. We've had several in the last few days that are inspecting our roof to get proposals. So we anticipate having something for the next board meeting in terms of that as well. That's the result I have to report.
Thank you. Motion to accept Chief's report. Second by Phil. All in favor? Aye. You opposed? Move. Attorney Sean?
Yeah, hi, thanks for having me today. I guess I'll be filling in for Joe when he can't make it. So I know a couple of you are the commissioner, and I know some of you are training. What I'm telling my board is this month, there are a couple things. Number one is the CPI was released 7%. What? 7%. So it's last year's levy is based at 1.4%. So that's your comparison. So the price you're paying at the gas pump at the grocery stores is real. It's come down, and so what does that mean for the district? By the first year since 2010 since 1991, they were going to use 5% as the limiting rather than CPI, because CPI every other year has been below 5%. So this year, if we levy for it, we're going to get 5%.
We did.
I know, but it's coming year. It's coming year. This is the number for this coming year, end of 22. So what we're probably going to be doing in most of our districts, we'll certainly would have to do here if we pass referendum, but even if we won't pass it. But most of our districts weren't even looking at that. We'll probably run a truth or taxation, because otherwise it would get no new growth, because truth or taxation cuts it at the same 5%.
We do that every year.
So, okay, so nothing new for Winfield. So that was interesting. We're sharing that with our folks. The other thing is the economic interest forms that you guys have been filled in the past. Remember the yellow forms? I call them the NA forms because it's NA. They're a different format this year. You still have to do them. The deadlines are still the same, but the questions are different. And it's the state of Illinois, of course, so it's not improved. It's new and unimproved. So, well, yeah, there's two things on there that I think are weird. One is, and I'm not exactly sure, we have some time, we don't have a firm position on this yet, but they ask for individual information of assets that you hold over $10,000. Does that mean you gotta put your house down? You gotta put your assets down? I think that's invasive.
Yeah.
So I think we want to answer that and put in a cursory issue,
Yeah.
you know, assets over 10,000, yes. Or, you know, I have assets in excess of $10,000, which consist of real estate and banks. But I don't think you're supposed to put, I have $11,500 in TD Ameritrade, here's the account number.
Yeah.
I don't think that's.
I gotta be honest with you, I'm gonna put down a ton of your damn business.
I don't know what the penalty is for non-responding, right?
Yeah.
Other. I have assets.
Other.
I have assets. That will work too. Yes, I have assets. The second thing that's confusing is on the bottom of the form, it requires a signature of an ethics officer. When I looked at it the first time, I'm like, what is this about? Upon further investigation, local districts don't have to do that. If you're a state employee, the state ethics official, the state ethics official will have to sign off on it. We can ignore it. So that's a little heads up for something that isn't until May 1st, but that's what I'm sharing with my folks this month. So, we have training. I'm sure we'll see some of you folks at the training. So you can pick our brains for free. And that's all I had, unless you have questions.
Thanks, Sean. And we need a motion to.
I'll make the motion to accept Attorney Flaherty's report.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Old business. You want to talk about this? How do you want to?
I prepared the report that was in your packet with respect to the referendum issue. Going back to our previous meetings, going back to the community input with respect to the survey results. Staff got together, worked hard to arrive at the conclusions expressed in the document, and at this particular point, I'm prepared to answer any questions any of the board members might have.
So basically, as I read this, we are doing our best to answer all the questions that we put out in the survey, address every issue that we can, right? Correct?
Yes, sir, that was the approach.
One thing that I think is worth noting, and it's discussed a little bit here, and obviously there'll be a discussion for further as well. And I think there's the potential for misinformation if people are not clear of what's going on. And that was evidenced today when the Winfield word came out. Winfield Works has a graphic on the front page that shows the property that contains the fire district, Station 31, as a potential mixed use. And I just think it should be noted that as things sit today with the finances and the revenue sources that we have today, there's no potential here unless there are other things that take place first, such as passing of a referendum, moving forward on a building, and the other further steps that would have to happen. So I want to make sure that it's known that could there, every property could have some other use to it potentially, but this just makes it a bit less clear than it should be in a public forum. So I just want to make sure that we put out there that as of right now, this should not be construed to be that there's a deal on the table or that there is some other plan in place here. There's no avenue for this as things sit today, but it does not mean that something won't exist on the basis.
Basically, right now, it's a village wish list.
Correct. That's what I would take that. So I just wanted to throw that out there in relation to the
referendum. We
Yeah.
pass everything, then we'll be taking it.
exactly. Then we'll then the bidding will open at $10 million.
Right.
But I just wanted as a portion of the discussion on the referendum, I thought it was important to point that out.
Very well said. Any other old business?
Chief, this was really well done, by the way, so thank you. I think that provides a very good room.
I believe we need to have a motion to,
I'm gonna make a motion. She's recommending. Thank you.
I will second that. For you.
All in favor?
Aye.
That probably needs to be a roll call.
Is it a roll call or voice? We're not really
Voice
spending. Well, we can just be safe and do a roll call.
Can you explain what the chief's recommendation is? Because we don't get to see this.
Just for the public.
I don't know what's on your paper.
Right.
So
It says that you're giving us everything. I'll give you, Luke.
Twice,
are giving us
everything I have.
everything.
He's already done it.
I have nothing to give.
He's already done it twice. So essentially, it has been the staff's position, it's been my position. That, and we're gonna get in a little deeper into the agenda. This past year, we ran 2,341 calls, so well past 2,300 calls. With one ambulance company and one fire company, which is considerable workload. It has been my position, and I've advocated for the addition of staffing, more people to respond to more calls, and the vehicles and infrastructure to support them. And that has been the previous ask. To that point, with respect to going back to the commission study we had by the Illinois Fire Chiefs Association with respect to our 13 square mile district and response times, response distances, and all of that other stuff, that when we did all of that for that infrastructure in that framework, the number, it was frankly simple math. The framework for that was the ask that had been previously asked, to the tune of approximately $2.2 million, which is not an insignificant amount of money, but that's what it would cost to do that. The feedback we have received has been, I think, clear that we needed to do more of a stepped approach or lessen it somehow. So we've gone back to work to try and figure out a way in which we could do this as part of a grander growth strategy or that kind of a thing.
Chief,
So,
Chief, may I interrupt?
yes, sir.
Perhaps you should read what you wrote, because that explains it very well.
The whole thing.
And then they know exactly what's on it.
I'd say the bullets are good. Read your bullets.
Just the bullets.
Just a bullet point.
Oh, yeah, that's-
So I was worried. So.
Anybody sat with chief for 10 minutes to talk about finance, 3 hours later, 3 hours later, you know he could.
Really, he writes on Saran. Very transparent, very good.
Yes.
So again, I talked about in the lead up just about the analysis and those levels that were involved in our data collection and analysis and all of the supporting documents and all of that type of thing. Leading into the bullet points out. Under the standardized responses within the West Suburban Fire Rescue Alliance, the Mutual Aid Alarm System, MABUS, and our Consolidated Dispatch Agency, DUCOM, many incidents call for a truck company to respond. Given that Winfield is the only agency in DuPage County which does not operate a heavy rescue or a truck company, this was a component of the previous request for a limiting rate referendum. Given the heavy reliance we place on our neighboring agencies to provide a truck company to our community. These companies are expensive, with the apparatus itself likely costing in excess of $1 million. Coupled with the ongoing costs associated with the addition of staffing and equipment, this is a substantial financial commitment. By eliminating the element of the request and continuing to rely on our partner agencies, the amount of the request requested increase can be lowered. Northwestern Medicine has awarded the Winfield Fire Protection District, point 2. Northwestern Medicine has awarded the Winfield Fire Protection District a 5-year grant, of which, by the way, we're in year 3, a 5-year grant for fire prevention and emergency medical services, which has allowed the district to utilize the offsets from the grant funds to pay for operational costs. The previous referendum request did not include the perpetual continuation of these funds, given that they are not guaranteed in perpetuity. However, by adjusting the philosophy and relying on this as a revenue stream long term, this would further limit the limiting rate request. Point 3, as we know from the commission response study by the Illinois Fire Chiefs Association, the district cannot meet nationally accepted standards for response times, distances throughout the entire 13 square mile fire district from any single location. Therefore, a two-facility solution was previously presented. While the administration believes that this is the proper long-term strategic solution for the residents of our district, we do acknowledge this is a more expensive option. The benefits of not only having the additional staff stationed within the boundaries of the fire district, but having them also be on either side of the railroad tracks and positioned to meet the response standards required are beneficial. However, the costs associated with operating two facilities and splitting the crews could be diminished by operating one centrally located facility. Point 4, the Winfield Fire Protection District has in excess of 300 commercial occupancies within our fire protection area. This district also is unique in that we do not have a dedicated fire prevention division or personnel. Previous referendum requests worked to address this deficiency through funding a part-time program of fire inspectors and fire prevention personnel. By eliminating this element of the rate increase request, we can continue to shift the workload on administrative staff and shift officers by decreasing the amount of grants. Those were the bullet points.
And then the very next sentence, which I think also should be noted, and again, this is based off of the feedback received from the survey that was put out. By adopting these assumptions, the amount of the requested increase can be lowered substantially, which is a direct request from the residents by way of the voting no for 13 straight referendums and responding to a survey saying, hey, you guys are asking for too much. So I think the chief has done a great job, and deputy chief and all the well on this. They did a wonderful job of trying to find a solution that takes into account what we've been told numerous times, while still providing the exceptional level of service that we all have come to expect from the people that live upstairs. So that's my idea.
And to summarize, that means that the hospital decides that they no longer want to extend the contract. We're going to be back in the streets again.
Correct.
It also means that the South Side Station will no longer be an option to be opened up, since we won't have the funds that with the personnel. So
At this
so that
time.
everybody's.
At this time.
As we
At
said,
this time.
any more discussion? And
Again, thank you.
and I don't know, we're really not adopting it, we're really just discussing it. It's really just
I don't feel that any motion is required. We're gonna bring an ordinance to you probably at the March
Okay,
meeting
all right,
for the
Okay, so
order.
you got a separate.
That's the
ordinance.
trigger ordinance. that
Yeah.
gets it on the-
okay, all right. All right, that being said, move to our consent agenda.
I move we have. we pass this consent
I have a second.
I will second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, let's move on, new business, we got some guests here.
Hey, guys.
You're up.
Stand over here.
You
Sit down or
We get the
what?
presentation.
Oh, all right.
Annual,
All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Brad Porter. I'm here on behalf of Lauterbach and Amon as the financial statement audit manager for the district to present to you the long overdue fiscal year 2021 audit highlights. I know this year we had undergone a software conversion process. We've worked over the last couple of months, countless hours on getting that new financial software in line, and I feel like we're in a pretty good position from that standpoint now. So. Also joining me here this evening is Morgan Staniszewski. She's one of our other client managers, and she had expressed some interest in tagging along for a board meeting. So I have the lucky pleasure of being the winner there. So before we begin, I just wanted to thank Robin and Chief for all their efforts. I can't tell you enough how many headaches Robin was dealing with this new MSI software. And she did a tremendous job in terms of the initial onboarding and setup, and really, really happy with where we're at now. So. There are 3 pieces of required communication that we issue as part of every audit process. I'll do my best to go through these very briefly. I know you have hard copies of both the audit report and management letter in front of you. If you spend some time digesting that material in the coming weeks, feel free to contact Robin and she can convey any questions to me at that point. So I wanted to point out the first piece of required communication is not going to be in front of you. The paper copy can be obtained from Robin, and that is what we call a SAS 114 letter. So in accordance with statement on auditing standard number 114, in the body of that letter, we state whether or not we had any disagreements or difficulties that we had encountered throughout our audit. Very happy to report that in the body of that letter, you'll find no such disagreements or difficulties noted. If you could turn with me to page 1 of the annual financial report, that is going to be your audit report. Yes, the thicker of the two bound documents, you betcha. Again, a lot of material here. I'm not going to go through everything here this evening. I'd just like to kind of point out a couple of highlights so you can follow along. On page 1, you'll find the independent auditor's report, where we go on to state what your responsibility is for the financial statements, and that is to essentially provide us as your auditors a clean set of financial statements to work off of. We then progress into what our responsibility is as your audit firm, and that is to generate an opinion on the financial statements that were provided. So this year, after some audit adjustments and getting MSI in line, I'm happy to report we've issued an unmodified opinion for the fiscal year ended April 30th, 2021. Which essentially states that we as your audit firm believe the financials are free from misstatement and that there are sound internal controls in place. So great job. I wanted to point out pages 4 through 8 are what we call our management's discussion and analysis section. This gives a great high-level overview of the fiscal year. It will allow you to kind of avoid looking at the actual financial statements themselves. You should get a pretty good idea of some of the highlights, fiscal 20 to fiscal 21 comparisons, charts, graphs, etc. So I would highly encourage you to invest most of your time in this section here. As it relates to some income statement highlights, I just wanted to mention the general fund had an increase in our general fund position of about $150,000 for the fiscal year ended April 30th, 2021, ending the year with about $2.6 million in accumulated fund balance. And that can be found on page 16. On page 19, I wanted to touch on the fire pension fund. This year was a great year. Again, this year being, keep in mind, this is fiscal 21, so a little outdated. We had a really great year on the investment front. So we had an increase in our overall net position of about $1.6 million, ending the year with about $8.9 million in fund balance. Let's jump to the management letter. That is the second of the two bound documents. So the primary purpose of our management letter is to communicate any best practices that we see in the industry across our fire protection districts, any upcoming accounting pronouncements that could have an impact on the district, and any internal control weaknesses or recommendations that we've identified. So we had 2 current recommendations for fiscal year 2021. The first of which is what we call GASB 87. Nothing you as a board need to be concerned with. This is simply a transparency related comment indicating that the accounting for leases is going to be changing. So I know it's really intriguing stuff that all of you are very interested in, but we'll take care of it as your audit firm coming in and making sure that we're evaluating any potential leases that are applicable. The second was out of balance funds, and unfortunately we are required to issue this management letter comment if we're provided trial balances that aren't balancing. And again, I can't stress enough the challenges through the software conversion process. The team did a really great job in terms of getting those in line. But again, when they come to us as your audit firm, they were out of balance. We worked together to get those back in line and feeling kind of good moving forward. So hope that was a brief recap of the fiscal year. I know we're a little outdated at this point, so happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Well, as I read through this, it looked like, correct me if I'm wrong, because I am at home all the time.
Sure.
And so, but if it looks like you're recommending we go to a line item balance for accounting. Is this, like, did I read it wrong? Like line item budgeting?
No, not necessarily.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
no, I would say you're nothing wrong with your budget at this point.
Okay, all right.
We review it as part of the audit process. So yeah, certainly no issues as it relates to the budget that
Okay, all right. That was my only
Yeah.
thing. Because I kind of read it, and maybe it's just because
yeah,
there's been some things that are out of whack
Yeah.
due to the changeover. I just was questioning.
yeah. What you might be referencing is the different bases of accounting. So there's cash basis and accrual basis. And you as a board are accustomed to seeing cash in, cash out. That's what's going on your treasurer's report at the end of the month. We have to true up at the end of the year some accounts receivable balances, some accounts payable balances on the balance sheet. So those are what we call accruals. And we're really just truing up things that are received or paid after year end that relate to fiscal 21. So
I was reading somewhere in a report, and I can't remember where it was at, something to do with assets and valuations, some and that you recommended doing it. I thought we'd done all that when Gatsby first came out.
Yeah, you do have your GASB
Right.
67,
Okay.
68 valuation that is conducted by an actuarial firm. So that, all that information is in here, I promise. And again, happy to go into as much detail as you want, but
It's just that I saw in one spot you were making that recommendation, but I thought it was already done.
there are
so-
GASBs rolling out every single year, I'll tell you that. But from an actuarial valuation standpoint, you're covered, so nothing you need to worry about there.
I appreciate your time.
Yeah,
Yeah, of course, we appreciate you having us.
And Robin, I appreciate you even more after knowing what.
It was a challenge.
We need to have a roll call vote for this, I believe, don't we?
Yes, President Kells,
Yes.
Secretary Sass.
Yep.
Treasurer Gainer,
Yes.
Trustee Simpson.
Yes.
Trustee Saylor.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, we need a motion.
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
Throw it out there. That's why I hesitated. I don't know what I just agreed to, but hey, I will make the motion to approve the.
You already made a motion.
You did? Then I'll second that. When did you make it? Nobody.
I think we did it.
Do I need to roll call again?
Probably be safe.
Okay, President Kells,
Yes.
Secretary Sass,
I guess.
Treasurer Gainer,
Yes.
Trustee Simpson, Trustee Saylor.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, I'll do that. I'll be better next time, Jeff. Okay,
Thanks again, guys.
No problem.
You should not feel like you have to stick around. Unless you really,
Because I know this is the part that's boring to you.
oh, really want to learn about the meeting. Yep.
We love audits.
But again, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you, Mark, too.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. Yeah, you go out that way, go right across here.
Thank you. Take care. Appreciate it.
The next on new business is discuss and adopt the ambulance billing ordinance 339.
This was an issue previously before the board that was agreed to vote on, and this is simply just the ordinance.
It needs to be adopted, correct?
So I make a motion to adopt the ordinance 339.
I don't, we can read through, we can let people know that we're raising the rate.
What's the current ambulance fee rate?
$18.50 and $10 an hour.
And it's moving to 2175, and this was based off of, I forget the.
So
EMT.
mobile emergency medical transport,
That's what it
there's a
Right.
GMT. So for this program, which the district enrolled into a couple of years ago, there's a cost reporting element to that for the state. And as a result of that, you arrive at what it costs to provide the service, and that is your billing rate, which is slightly higher than this. And I wanted to point out in advance to board members that this is a common thing that happens this time of year, and several of our neighbors have similarly adopted these types of things, with the highest being one of our neighbors to the north just went to 2783 plus $20 an hour. Well, no, but
That's
every
their,
unit's
that's their recommended.
that's
Yeah,
their
they're
cost.
recommended.
So it has, there's elements to this like employment costs. Our employment cost relative to all of our neighbors is cheaper. Right. So things like a higher paid department, that for whatever reason, their operating costs are more, that all is what gets cooked out in the cost report.
So does that mean if we go to take our ambulance to the north, we can get more? Or do we have to charge them our rate?
Interestingly, actually, that's an excellent point. Thank you for asking.
I was gonna ask you a different one, so I'll ask you my way next.
So when typically, when a medic unit responds mutual aid to a neighboring agency, it's a mutual aid call, you can't bill for service. Within the alliance, we actually had Illinois Department of Public Health, IDPH. We
The Attorney General's office.
thank you, in the Attorney General's office, we worked out an arrangement because of our partnership, where when we respond amongst each other, we can bill within each other's communities, which is a somewhat unique thing that we
Which,
share.
which also means that if that agency to the north with the $2,800 rate responds to a call here to
They bill our
drive you, then we are being,
They go to our
and then you are being charged at their rate or at our rate.
The
You, the
host,
resident.
the host agency's rate.
Ah,
So
okay.
if
So we should really send a lot of our ambulance. No, I'm just kidding.
So, yeah, so Wheaton comes here, they charge at our rate, we go to Wheaton, we charge at their rate.
Gotcha. Should be the other way around. That's right. It's not.
All right,
Anything to add?
I think we need to move to approve the ordinance.
I need a motion to approve.
I think I made that motion.
Okay, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Jenny?
Roll call vote.
Roll call.
President Cast?
Yes.
Secretary Sass?
Yes.
Treasurer Gannon?
Yep.
Trustee Simpson?
Yes.
Trustee Saylor?
Yes.
Okay, so moved. We need to discuss and approve a recommendation for our IT services.
That I like the law explanation. Seems like a stiff month is built for.
So we have,
I have the question.
we have a current vendor who supports part-time supplying information technology support for us, which there are some issues with respect to support of some of the infrastructure that we have, specifically like the MDTs. Some of the infrastructure having cloud-based storage as opposed to on-site backups. So there's a lot of elements that are going on as part of the whole computer solution conversation that we have some deficiencies, noteworthy deficiencies, and we need to bring someone in to fix them because we're unsecured, specifically the MDTs and backups. And many of the members aren't happy with our email system as it exists today. So we started investigating the possibility, brought in some different vendors. We arrived at a conclusion that there was a couple of vendors that offered a comprehensive solution to our entire IT support framework. And we've had second interviews, in fact, second interviews earlier today with those vendors for that purpose. And actually, this memo was put out to advise you of that. And I don't know that the administrative staff has arrived at a recommendation between those two yet. But it is something that is brewing and is an important area. And
So
while
the current person we're using did not have a solution to the problem.
the current vendor we have won't get involved in the mobile data terminal end of our business, number one. And that's an enormous problem because that is, but at the end of the day, everything else could burst into flames and blow up. We need those MDTs to do our job. So that was an enormous problem. And they require considerable amount of support. And the other thing was the backup that we don't have. All of our backup is on a server on site, a hard. And so if that server goes up, that's all of our backup, and that's a problem. And the current vendor didn't offer a cloud-based solution for backup, which has become pretty standard. So we recognize these as potential big problems, and we wanted to work on addressing it before we had some sort of colossal failure.
So I had a question regarding specifically the second of the two presented in the order that they were presented. And I don't want to get into naming names if we're not making decisions tonight. But I noticed that the one provided references districts that they currently deal with. Does the other one deal with fire protection districts? And the reason why I asked is because their proposal begins with a form letter about being a small business. And I would think that if you're in the business of dealing with fire districts, you're going to speak to them and at least make your form letters be correct for your audience.
So both of these,
So that was my concern.
yeah, both of these entities, to varying degrees, have a footprint in the fire business,
Okay.
fire protection districts and/or fire departments, mostly fire protection districts, as self-existing types of agencies. And we have reached out to clients from both, again, as recently as today, we're still checking references. And we have a level of comfortability with both of them. However, there is a considerable price disparity between the two. One of them, and again, that's why I'm not prepared to give a recommendation or even I'll answer any questions, but I'm not prepared to make any or ask for any formal movement on the part of the board. Because there were nuanced changes that were relevant. One's more familiar with DUCOM specifically, but the other one's familiar with other agencies and a lot of this stuff. If you know how Red Center or CaneCom operates,
Then you know how to do that.
well, you shouldn't, the learning curve shouldn't be that
Sure.
terrible. And the biggest one's got 24-hour tech support. The other one doesn't have 24-hour tech support, but
Do you need 24 hours?
you need 24-hour tech support. And the biggest thing that needs 24-hour tech support is the MDTs. And the MDT software is something that's housed over at the county. So that's not something that's not, if our email goes down on a Sunday night, it's not. Right. So that's some of those things that we're still working out as recently as today. So it is a problem, and it is something that we need to tackle, and it's going to cost money, but I think it's important.
Would it be likely that we'd see a recommendation by the next meeting?
I believe so. And both vendors offered to present to the board if they were, if the board was interested in that.
Personally,
I personally feel that you work with it.
yeah, I don't know if presenting to me is gonna matter, because I'm just gonna get lost in
Yeah, I mean,
bits versus bytes.
We're
and
looking
that kind of
at,
stuff,
we're looking
so-
at what works best for you.
Yeah.
What you're most comfortable with, and what you have the most faith in.
I guess the only thing I would like to know, and I can sort of talk to you prior to the next meeting, is, it's a fairly big monthly nut, or want to know what the nut is. I mean,
So it's basically the lower of the two is roughly double what we're paying now, but it's for.
Is it for at least double of what we're getting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Support of the MDTs, offsite storage, improved email. Included in that is Office 365, which we currently don't have. So the licensing is included in that price structure for that.
Alright.
That's not cheap licensing either.
No, the support. So I mean, yes, my position is it is.
Plus the fact they have a team of people that work. We have one guy that's part-time and has a full-time job doing something else. When he's on vacation somewhere, he doesn't always have access remotely. If it's in an area where he doesn't have good connectivity, it's not
Oh,
always.
there's time down, there's lost, there's
Okay.
some aggravation, I can only imagine. That might work.
And some involves you guys being able to do your job.
Well, yeah, if we have a crash and can't put in the first reports, that's,
So we're gonna push this to February.
yes, but it's good, but it we'll have a recommendation for you. for
Okay,
that.
great. The next item is we need to approve the surplus list and disposition. For surplus list.
So again, we have a lot of spare stuff / junk laying, or,
Should have a garage sale.
well, that's what they said.
We should have a fire sale.
We should have a garage sale. I mean, like, open it up, sell a Rick Ford.
Compliments to the deputy chief when he came on board. He identified, what do we do with surplus items and stuff of value that is no longer being used. So going back to the previous board meetings with respect to establishing a surplus list and surplusing items, so we have a formal process, and that's a good thing. And it goes with a lot of what we've been working on the last couple of years to update our processes, policies, procedures. There's a lot of stuff we needed to clean up.
People are getting rid of the welding.
No.
We just don't have it for
It hasn't been used in
But it's here.
7 or 8 years.
It's here, and you're like, worth it.
Well, it'll be auctioned. I mean, it's a device of value that will be auctioned.
Yeah.
But we have no use for it. Frankly, we have no certified welders on the department, so no one should be welding with it.
Okay, there you go.
Otherwise, we, have a break to Thanksgiving.
Lots of stuff.
So is there a motion? on
I was just gonna ask for.
I will make the motion to approve the surplus equipment list as presented with the disposition as listed.
And I'll make a motion to pay bills.
We have to have roll call.
Yeah.
Sorry.
it? President Callis?
Yes.
Secretary Sass? Trustee Jana?
Yep.
Trustee Simpson? Trustee Saylor?
Yes.
And we already have a motion on the floor to pay the bills. Do we have a second?
Second that.
All in favor?
Roll call vote.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Spend money.
Spending
Trustee
money,
Kalis.
spending money, yes.
Secretary Sus. Treasurer Gannon.
Pay those bills.
Trustee Simpson.
Yes.
Trustee Saylor.
Yes.
We are going to, do we have a need for executive session?
I make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Did we have a
Aye.
second- did we have a second opportunity for public comment?
Oh, we didn't, oh, and there was actually, sorry.
Yes, there's,
There's one comment, just, there's a comment
Sure.
above that one too. Can you scroll up really quick, please? There was earlier comments regarding all the responders did a wonderful job during the tragic accident on Winfield Road. Thank you all.
that's nice.
Appreciate that. And then having single on-site service backup for the MDTs is a major problem that can't be overstated, which I think is valid as well. And I think we all recognize that.
Right.
But appreciate those comments, yeah. Thanks.
All right.
And move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn. And
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
We didn't spend money.
We're not spending money yet.
Well, I mean. Thanks, everybody.